Welcome back, nerds! I thought that we would try something new and break down the fascinating stories of your favorite mutants, starting with one of mine, Dazzler. Did you know that she was originally planned to be a real-life person, and she almost looked completely different? The iconic mutant pop star was supposed to be real in both Marvel Comics and in our real world. Sources say that in the late 70s, a record company, widely reported to be the top of the food chain at the time, Casablanca Records, approached Marvel with a marketing proposition, a collaboration between the businesses to create a superhero superstar. The idea was Casablanca Records would hire a performer to play the part in real life, record the music, tour, and then Marvel could then release comics about their superhero adventures. It's important to note that this is right around the ending of the height of disco. Casablanca is at its peak though and is looking for the next best thing. The brainstorming of the character involved many people thanks to the cross-media nature of her. On the Marvel side, we had Tom DeFalco, John Romita Jr.'s, and Roger Stern. Marvel's idea for the character and Casablanca's plan could not have been more different from each other if they tried. On the Marvel side, Romita's first design is barely recognizable from the Dazzler that we know today, but is absolutely fabulous. He based her look on popular model and singer Grace Jones. The Jamaican performer was known for being bold with her fashion and taking over the music charts, often referred to as the Disco Queen, which was also Dazzler's original code name. Early art of the character shows that her costume design didn't actually change all that much, just some of the colors, and then also, of course, the person wearing it. Some Marvel fans believe that the original design for Dazzler was actually more appropriate for the character because disco as a genre started out in the US nightlife scene and is credited to people of color. So, how did we end up making such a drastic change to Dazzler's appearance today? Well, there were a couple factors. To start, we have, like the elephant in the room, but also disco was tapering off at the time and making room for the synth sounds of the 80s. So Dazzler's OG codename, Disco Queen, it had to be changed because the times changed. But the biggest reason for that change is due to a movie deal already planned out. That's right, Dazzler was going to get her own feature too. And at the end of the day, she's part of a long line of superheroes that are victims of movie studios and rights issues. So let's dive into that. The Dazzler film script is bonkers and too ambitious for its own good. But to start, Marvel writer Jim Shooter wrote a draft for her special for the studio Filmworks. The record contract, the designing of the character, and the film are all happening simultaneously, so there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen. Filmworks decided that they wanted Bo Derek to star as the mutant hero after she became the It Girl thanks to a starring role in the film 10, and this is probably the main reason why Dazzler's design changed so drastically to what she is today. But the kicker throughout all of this is the movie was obviously never made, and the recording contract fell through with it. So Marvel seemed to jump through all of those hoops to make these studios happy and redesign his character, only for it to not actually matter in the end. But the real, alleged drama comes from why the movie fell through. According to comicsarchaeology.com, Bo Derek insisted that her husband at the time, John Derek, direct the feature. He had some directing experience, he was an actor first, but none of his films were super overly well received, so Filmworks wasn't really biting, and they couldn't come to an agreement, so the whole thing was just completely thrown out. Presumably, context clues we're looking at here, because the film was scrapped, the record contract was too. Especially with disco losing its popularity as we headed into the 80s, of course, which is probably for the best considering Jim Shooter's script is available and wanted to feature Cher, Donna Summer, Kiss, Robin Williams, and the Village People, plus more probably. I don't think that Marvel at its phase Avengers, Infinity War, and Endgame peak could get all of those people. So I am disappointed in the lack of Dazzler film, yes, but was it for the best? Probably. In the end, there was no reason for Marvel to not release Dazzler as a character. They already went through the pains of designing this really great version of her and revising it based on the movie. They might as well release her, and that is why Dazzler debuted with her own 42-issue series right out the gate. So in the end, we were robbed of a Dazzler in the real world, though I have to say Taylor Swift gets pretty close, or maybe even Sabrina Carpenter if you ignore the height.
The Guardians of the Universe are immortal, and they're the oldest living beings in the universe. For eons, they proclaimed that they had witnessed the creation of life itself, and that this creation had occurred on their home planet. Thus, this gave them the right to assume authority in universal disputes. Now, as the overseers of the Green Lantern Corps, they are dedicated to maintaining peace and order throughout the universe, and use the Green Lanterns to enforce those ideals. However, Blackest Night number 7, written by Jeff Johns, reveals that the Guardians upheld their authority by perpetuating the oldest lie in the universe. Necron, the embodiment of death and the founder of the Black Lantern Corps, uses a slain Guardian to release a being made of pure pure white light from Earth's core. Ganthet, a guardian, reluctantly then tells Hal Jordan that it is the entity, the living light bestowed upon this universe, that triggered existence itself. He then reveals that while the Guardians are the oldest living beings, life did not begin on their homeworld, but rather on Earth. They hid this truth to keep the entity protected, and they deliberately refused to choose Green Lanterns from Earth so as to not draw attention to the planet. Sinestro realizes that Abin Sur must have discovered this, and that's why he chose to give his ring to an Earthman, seemingly hoping that it would help uncover the entire conspiracy. Mind blown. You're welcome. Next up, Superman's secret identity was something that for a long time, especially during the Silver Age, was always teased about being unveiled. In the modern era of comics, it largely took a bit of a back burner. That was, at least until 2018, when Superman decided that, due to his determination to uphold the truth, he needed to be honest with the world, publicly confirming that Clark Kent and Superman are one and the same. Now that's all well and good until we saw the ramifications of that, particularly with one Alexander Luthor. Lex Luthor has grown up with Clark Kent in Smallville, and he felt betrayed that Clark, the only person who had ever been nice to him, lied to him for so many years. Lex felt that if he had known the truth about Clark, their lives would have been different, which is probably true. So, what did he do? Luthor captured Manchester Black, who he had planted as a mole on Superman's authority team, and used Black's telepathic powers to not only erase Superman's identity, but put a post-hypnotic suggestion in everyone on Earth that would give anyone a heart attack if they found out that Superman was Clark Kent. That's a lot. But speaking of a lot, Crisis on Infinite Earths is arguably DC's best event, but its in-universe ramifications have always been interesting. The Anti-Monitor's defeat didn't just minimize the multiverse down into one Earth, it made it so there had always been one Earth. The Crisis became an event in Earth's history, but it was very different from what happened in the actual battle against the Anti-Monitor that the readers read in the 12-issue series. But at the same time, both versions of the Crisis technically actually happened. The one in the actual comic and the changed one that sprang from the reordering of creation caused by the victory against the Anti-Monitor. This was known by few people, for example Psycho Pirate, who no one believed because he had mental health issues. Alexander Luthor, Superboy Prime, Earth 2 Superman, and Earth 2 Lois Lane, basically the heroes of the Crisis, also knew the truth, and it was eventually revealed to Power Girl and others, and in time, the true nature of the Crisis was revealed to the heroic and villainous communities at large. While many of Batman's villains have well-known pasts, the Joker has always been shrouded in mystery. Over the years, multiple different origins for the Joker were suggested. The closest thing to an actual answer came from Batman the Killing Joke. That comic alluded to Joker being a failed comedian who was forced into being the Red Hood and thrown into a vat of acid by Batman, his pregnant wife then escaping him while he was out as the Hood. Now of course there is also the Three Jokers story and concept, where it was revealed that multiple people took up the mantle of the Joker, including the failed comedian. It was also revealed that Batman had known the identity of the comedian Joker the whole time. However, that may not actually be canon. Another recent revelation is that the different aspects of the Joker's personality are actually due to training he undertook with Daniel Captio. Daniel Captio taught both Batman and the Joker separately how to use their minds to their full capacity. It basically allowed Batman to create the Zur-En-Arrh personality, and it allowed the Joker to do something very similar, creating his own separate personalities. DC's multiverse is confusing, starting with the fact that DC tried to erase it only to put it back and then continuously fiddled with it. One of the things that really boggled my mind was when DC revealed the Dark Multiverse. The multiverse had a dark twin, one where the healthy worlds gave way to diseased Earths. On these planets, evil prevailed and the people suffered in the darkness below the multiverse, which you would think would just be a part of an ever-expanding multiverse, But no, it's its own thing. This was the Dark Multiverse, and it would soon become a tool in the hands of the Dark God, Barbados. Barbados brought the Dark Knights, alternate evil Batman who had wiped out their Justice Leagues and stolen their powers, to the multiverse to conquer it and steal its energy for the Dark Multiverse. Barbados used the Dark Multiverse against the heroes to conquer all of creation. Now Perpetua and the Batman Who Laughs did something very similar, showing just how dangerous the Dark Multiverse could be. It doesn't make the multiverse any more simple though, it just makes it more confusing. Villains sometimes find out the heroes' identities. That's bad. It puts their lives and the lives of their loved ones in danger. Erasing that knowledge from the minds of villains shouldn't really be a problem, and sounds kind of like a decent solution to the problem. But when it's kept a secret and done by only a small group, it kind of becomes an issue. It was revealed in Identity Crisis that that's what certain members of the Justice League had been doing for years, but it all backfired on them when Batman walked in on them doing it to Dr. Light. Batman finding out and getting mind wiped was the last straw, throwing a spanner into the works of the Justice League. The secret was kept for years, but once it got out, it wrecked the cohesion of the Justice League, and this came about at the worst possible time, allowing Alexander Luthor, Superboy Prime, and the Society to carry out their plans largely unopposed. DC's The New 52 was a big old change up to their continuity, and it really annoyed a lot of people, but how it came to be was a big old mystery that I somewhat enjoyed reading because it involved the Watchmen's own Dr. Manhattan. Dr. Manhattan's role in creating the New 52 wasn't planned from the beginning, but it ended up making more and more sense than what originally was established as it went on. Basically, Dr. Manhattan actually left the Watchmen universe and found the DC multiverse. He entered the Prime Earth and then began messing with events using the multiverse for his own uber-sized experiments. Eventually, the arrival of other people from the Watchmen universe revealed his hand in why things had changed, and the heroes responded. The interesting thing about this secret is that most of DC's characters don't really know exactly what Dr. Manhattan did. The heroes know that the blue guy had something to do with changing the multiverse's history, but the full extent of what he did remains a complete and total mystery. Next up isn't so much a secret as it is something that DC might want you to forget about. Basically, when Wonder Woman first came on the scene, the character being tied up and captured happened to an increasingly uncomfortable degree. This was because her co-creator, William Moulton Marston, incorporated his, personal preferences into her stories and powers. Like, infamously, he made Wonder Woman's greatest weakness being tied up or subdued by a man. Now this was pretty quickly retconned even before the Comics Code Authority cracked down on comics in the 1950s. Later writers didn't share Marston's interests and views and felt that Wonder Woman's weird and oddly specific weaknesses were unnecessary, but just a bit sexist and humiliating. Now this is technically a retcon, and it went largely unnoticed for actually quite a while until some dedicated readers dug into Wonder Woman's past and found out. Next up, Arthur Curry is Aquaman. He is the guy. When people think of the blonde-haired, golden, fish scale wearing hero, they are thinking of Arthur Curry. Or are they? Ooh. Arthur Curry is DC's official Aquaman. That part isn't wrong, but when you look at the Golden Age Aquaman, that is actually not Arthur Curry. That version of the character, who looks basically the exact same with all the same powers, is actually just some unnamed water-based hero who actually kind of despises us regular Earth humans and fought against the Axis powers during World War II. DC had only introduced Arthur Curry as we know him during the Silver Age of comics, and he became accepted as just the guy who had always been Aquaman. As he got more and more popular, DC just kind of quietly swept Golden Age Aquaman under the rug and pretended that they were the same person the whole time. It's actually kind of hilarious because the only reason that no one realized was because it's Aquaman, and no one even cared if they did realize. Sorry, dude. Okay, for my last exposed secret of the day, I'm going to a short little moment that shows us a side to Bruce Wayne that I don't think any of us knew existed. In JLA issue number 27 in 1999, there is a single page. Bruce Wayne is meeting with Clark Kent and a mysterious woman who Clark introduces as Hino Ray, and she greets Bruce Wayne. In the very next panel, we find out that this woman is actually John Johns, the Martian Manhunter, or John Jones if you prefer, in disguise. How do we find this out? Well, Batman says that while the accent was flawless, the name was a dead giveaway. Now, this may fly right over your head, it did for me at first, but Rahino is the name of Sailor Mars from Sailor Moon. That means that Batman, Bruce Wayne, billionaire and masked detective vigilante who has mortally wounded characters like Darkseid and beats criminals to a pulp with his bare hands, and Martian Manhunter, a literal Martian with powers that are on par with Superman and who is millions of years old and has dealt with the extinction of his own species, both watch Sailor Moon and are big enough fans to use and recognize a name from the show, and not even the name of the main character.
This first one is kind of tangled up in a bunch of Marvel secrets which were exposed. It all started when the Scarlet Witch seemed to conceive and give birth to 2 living children. This was odd, considering that Wanda was married at the time to Vision, who she claimed was the father of her children. And Vision, of course, is, well, he's an android, so the idea that she could conceive his children seemed impossible, especially since that had already been established in the canon, that wasn't possible. From there, Wanda was made to realize that her children were not in fact alive in a traditional sense, despite her wanting them so badly to be. Instead, she had taken a piece of Mephisto's soul and used it to manifest the kids into being by warping reality because her desire to have children was just that strong. Later, after being forced into accepting this truth, Wanda's mind is then wiped of the children's existence, who at this point have been removed. For her own safety and peace of mind, it was believed this was done, or at least, that's what Agatha Harkness believed she was doing it for. However, when Wanda later found out the truth of this cover-up, she wasn't quite so appreciative of Agatha's actions. In fact, this revelation, which came about because Wasp let it slip accidentally, instead prompted Wanda to search for Agatha and, once found, to kill her. And then Scarlet Witch suffered a mental break after that, which led us down the path to Avengers Disassembled and inevitably House of M, as House of M came out of that. What are some hero reveals that you feel have just been the most mind-boggling, either for the characters in the comics or for you reading them? This next one was a pretty big secret that was kept throughout the dawn of X of the Krakoan era. We knew this secret as the readers because we were given the full story of Krakoa's creation at the beginning of the Dawn of X. It's all explained, but many others involved in its creation in canon in the story were not informed of just exactly who was entirely involved in the founding of this mutant nation. All mutants seem to know about the major involvement of Charles Xavier, aka Professor X, or just X as he was going by at that time, and Eric Lencher, sometimes referred to by his given name Max Eisenhart, but more often referred to by his codename Magneto. But no one, save Magneto and X, knew of the third person that was involved in the founding, Moira Mctaggert. In fact, at this point in comic book history, many people actually believed Moira to be dead, so even the fact that she was still alive was in and of itself a reveal. So just her existence was a major secret that was hidden from pretty much everyone else on the island, including Krakoa itself and all the other members of the Quiet Council. Needless to say, after this reveal happened, a lot of people were understandably hurt, upset, and confused as to why they'd been kept in the dark about this. Emma Frost especially, but also Cypher among them, and then there were some people that were just plain mad. In the end, this reveal also led to the reveal that Moira had actually been masterfully enacting her own plan this whole time to eradicate mutant kind, of which the creation of Krakoa was actually only a part. Yikes. The reveal of her existence led to the reveal of her true feelings towards mutant kind, with us learning that Moira was actually a villain, which in turn led her to going completely off the rails and joining up with Orchis, becoming more and more of an evil cyborg along the way as time went on. To the point that we have Moira Mctaggert now, who I feel like is not even recognizable really. I personally think this next one is one of the wildest secrets that has been revealed in Marvel Comics in all of its history. It comes to us from Original Sin, where secrets were being exposed left, right, and center. This one involves Bruce Banner and Tony Stark. Back in the day, Banner and Stark actually worked together on the gamma radiation weapons that were being tested by the military. However, one night, after some drinks and as a result of kind of a heated argument that had ensued between Banner and Stark in regards to the moral implications of what they were creating here, Tony tampered with the explosive that they were preparing to test. Following that, the accident that would happen would transform Bruce Banner forever into the tormented hero we know as the Hulk. And during Original Sin, it was believed, or therefore kind of implied that this only happened because Tony fiddled with the experimental weapon that they were testing. I mean, that was the secret that was revealed, but was it the cause of everything? I think you can imagine how Hulk reacted to this potential cause of what happened to him. Or at the time I should say Doc Green, which was Banner's current Hulk persona, who retained the brilliant mind of Banner while in his Hulk form. Pretty dangerous. Banner actually created this persona through the use of Extremis. When Hulk found out about Tony Stark's possible involvement in his creation, he was understandably angry and even at one point was set on destroying Iron Man for his perceived involvement in his cursed origin story. This is why Banner used Extremis, injecting it right into his brain to give him a boost that would allow him to decimate Tony both mentally and physically. That was his goal. Yeesh. Fortunately, in the end, the two are able to talk things out and ultimately Banner forgives Tony, with the two making peace. Especially because, you know, like I said, that's what we believed was the cause, but it didn't actually end up being that way. But yeah, it was pretty close there for a moment. This one was one of the most surprising reveals to me personally. Although, to be honest, I feel like the Eternals is a team that always is fascinating in the sense that they have some of the greatest and most impactful reveals in all of Marvel Comics. Although, you know, I think X-Men is also up there, but I think Eternals ultimately takes it for me in terms of teams that just have crazy reveals. But I digress. When it comes to this Eternals reveal, it's maybe not the most earth-shattering, but it's still insane. Actually, wait, it was kind of accidentally earth-shattering, literally. I'm going to focus on the secret that in order for the Eternals to be resurrected and rebuilt by the great machine that is Earth, human lives have to be sacrificed. This is a secret that once exposed and revealed to some of the Eternals ends up destroying them. When it comes to Icarus, it's a truth he struggles to live with after he learns the boy he was pledged to protect, Toby Robson, actually died as a result of Icarus needing to be resurrected. On a larger scale, this reveal causes one of the Eternals to even turn on the others, believing this cycle of sacrifice needs to be stopped. I won't say who is the one that is kind of behind all of that in case you feel inclined to check out the most recent Eternals run from 2021 that was written by Kieran Gillen, but it's pretty crazy. Honestly, I recommend you check out that series. It is a fantastic read and it only ended up being 12 issues, so it's not that long. But it's so good you'll probably, like me, wish it was longer. This final secret was exposed by the person who had been tasked with keeping it in the first place. But it's just so insane that I have to include it here. Also, even if the person whose secret it is reveals said secret, I'm pretty sure you can still consider that being exposed. The way I look at it, they're just simply the ones that expose it themselves. So for this one, we're heading over to the Ultimate Comics, the original Ultimate Comics line and universe of Earth 1610. Here our Avengers team is instead known as the Ultimates, and of their ranks we have a few members you may recognize from your usual Avengers mainstay team, including Iron Man and Black Widow. However, here Black Widow's history is somewhat changed, and instead of her being a Russian spy whose alignment was eventually changed following her meeting the Avengers, and then she ends up becoming a good guy, she becomes a hero, Black Widow remains a spy, and instead is actually working secretly undercover, pretending to have joined the US and joined the Ultimates, but really acting as a double agent. She is also dating Tony Stark's Iron Man here, who finds out too late the truth about where her loyalties lie. The two at this point are actually engaged to be married, when after Tony attempts to answer a call to action from the Ultimates team, Black Widow turns on him, revealing her true colors and taking out Jarvis in the process. And then she also tries to steal all of Tony's money? No! Fortunately, Iron Man is able to defeat and restrain her, and later, Hawkeye, who has his own personal beef with the villainess, takes her out permanently.